Brad Rogers, he's the CEO and chairman of RedWhite&Bloom, joins us. Brad, how are things?
Couldn't be better, I don't think. I mean, we're in an essential business in a land that is desiring of cannabis like there's no other. So I couldn't be happier and in a great position to actually take advantage of what's going on here.
Well, we always like to have, especially with the U.S. players, that as this industry continues to build momentum, heat up. Do we not think 2021 is the year we might look back and see everything has changed? Do you feel like that?
I do. I think this is the year that we will say that the prohibition truly ended, because the tipping point has happened within most of the states. Canada has federally gone regulated across from sea to shining sea, and that's been a bit of a model to be able to actually say, hey, it's federalized. It's federalized in a G8 country.
Yeah.
It works. The states have all popped up. It's the difference is it rained down in Canada from a federal perspective.
Yep.
Is bubbling up from the states from a state perspective. And that's the only difference. And then there's going to be a federal umbrella put on it at some point very soon.
That's exciting. Let's talk about the RedWhite&Bloom story. You're grown basically from 2 retail locations to now 8 located in Michigan, with 10 more opening on the horizon, as well as expansion in additional states such as Illinois and Florida. So as we just talked about, the industry continues to build momentum and you continue to scale up. What do you think is the overarching philosophy behind acquiring licenses in different jurisdictions?
Well, it depends on what jurisdiction you want to get into and how those licenses are administered. Because, like I said, every state's its own entity. There's a garden wall around each one of them, and they all regulate themselves differently. And so, for instance, in Florida, it's a limited license state. In Illinois, it's a limited license state. Oklahoma was a free for all where there was, I think, 2,600 stores at one point. It was crazy. So it was just a Darwinian system where strongest survive, and now we're pared down to, I believe it's about 1,600 now, soon to be down probably to 1,200. But at the end of the day, each state takes on its own framework of how they administer the regulatory framework in cannabis, and you just go in and identify an opportunity and play within those rules.
Yeah. Well, I look at opportunity here. Your last Q3 2020 earnings report, you had revenues of just over 6 million Canadian, although pro forma earnings were 48 million, and fiscal year 2021 revenues are projected to be at least $300 million with significant EBITDA generations. Those are big numbers. So do you feel RedWhite&Bloom gets a little overlooked, kind of like the state of Michigan, given that the company hasn't yet consolidated all of your business operations to your top line?
100%. I mean, Michigan was never on the forefront of any of the big companies that were, big stock market booms. And that wasn't part of their growth strategy, nor was it part of the portfolio at the time. So we were very stealth going into Michigan because it was a regulatory complex framework in terms of how you got into it. We figured it out. We were one of the only ones that really did figure it out. And RWB was effectively a branding company that was an investment vehicle to a target within Michigan that we invested in. And so, we structured it properly to get into that market. We took a dominant position there, and we're growing like a weed.
Yeah, good point. Exactly. But why do you think that is, that Michigan has been overlooked? Because this is a lucrative market. Like, you look at the city of Detroit and the tremendous growth that it's experiencing over the last, 3 to 5 years, especially. 2 major universities in Michigan State and obviously Michigan and Ann Arbor, some of the wealthiest suburban neighborhoods, across the entire country. But why do you think it has been overlooked, and what does that present for you moving forward?
Well, clearly you see it as I do, nothing but opportunity, and in on so many levels, right? You have the insatiable market of Detroit that just consumes beyond whatever I thought was even possible, and then we have the affluent areas that really aspire to those alternate forms such as the gummies and the vapes, et cetera. And so there's just such a confluence of demand in there across a portfolio of products that is just so insatiable right now. And the reason why it hasn't been on everyone's radar is because it was a complex framework to get into regulatorily. Public companies could not own a license in Michigan effectively. Right. So we had to structure it appropriately to invest in a private vehicle to be able to get to where we are today, and be compliant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's how we strategically positioned RWB as Michigan was our beachhead. And now we've since grown into other states, and I think, you know, we're on now the radar of pretty much everybody else in the United States right now, being a consequential player in the game right now.
Well, it's all like, you know, when I think of the Red, White, and Bloom name, it's a lot of, it's a name that people obviously remember. You know, a great name to say the least. And when I talk about you
Thank you.
specifically, you have a strong marketing background and your ability to build recognizable brands from the ground up. What do you feel you're doing right compared to other competitors in this space when it comes to building name recognition organically that maybe others are not?
Well, I mean, like I said, my history is in branding. You know, I was in entertainment for a very long time.
Yep.
You know, I was selling into Walmart, Target, Costco, Carrefour, all the hypermarkets around the world, and 28,000 points of distribution in big boxes. And, you know, brand equity is leveraged significantly within those environments. And mind share is a huge component of people choosing your product over others. And so, you know, I saw that as a huge opportunity to be able to get into this market and catch up effectively. You know, I'm 6 years late to this market effectively.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way I wanted to do it was effectively is take it on as a branding game. So when you look at commodities such as what cannabis is, and it really is just a commodity, you know, brands speak volumes. And so, you know, whenever I'm on stage and giving a speech or you know, a talk wherever on a fireside, you know, I'll ask people, it's like, okay, so who grew the beans in my Starbucks coffee? Nobody knows, right?
Right.
Nobody has a clue.
Yeah.
And then I ask, why did I spend $4 on this thing that probably cost
Right.
17 cents? It's a commodity, but it's a brand in the end. So I think, you know, cannabis is going to be exactly that. Very similar to alcohol, very similar to,
Yeah.
you know, green beans and beer and, you know, whatever else it might be branded in a specific way to create that leverage and mind share in who buys your product. And so that's effectively what we're doing right now.
Where do you see the whole branding landscape of this industry in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, look, I think, you know, RWB was positioned as an umbrella to a house of brands,
Yeah.
much like a P&G. When you think of P&G, you don't think of, you know, anything specific, but you know all their brands, such as, you know, your Crest, your hard surface cleaners, your detergents, and all these other things. And I don't think, you know, in the cannabis space, there's so many verticals that cannabis fits in. It goes in everything. Nothing in the world has ever stratified pharma and rec really in the world. And so it's used for everything. And so one brand will not satiate the market. It won't get mind share in everybody. And one thing is not going to paint a broad picture. So, you know, we're going in with very strategic, you know, psychographic and demographic position products to go appease a certain audience and wallet share. So that's effectively what we're doing. We've licensed in High Times, you know, the only brand in cannabis, as far as I'm concerned. It's been around for 46 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and been an advocate for cannabis through thick and thin, through everything in the world. I mean, this was the torchbearer for cannabis, for cannabis, you know, for the very long time before it even came to this fruition. And so, you know, when litmus test for a brand, as far as I'm concerned, is when you wake somebody up in the middle of the night and you say Tide, they say detergent.
Right.
You say Starbucks, they say coffee. You say High Times, guess what they say?
Weed.
Cannabis.
Cannabis.
Weed. Yes, absolutely. And so that's where the brand leverage comes in. The mind share in America is there before we even get there.
Yep.
And that's powerful to us.
100%. So you brought up High Times. Let's talk about the name, how it fits into your overall strategy, the House of Brands model. This is a big brand with the perception of the brand being, as you said, about cannabis. The product itself, what's the feedback that you get from consumers, and how does this advance your company?
So, you know, we've launched the brand initially with 3 specialized product drops in Michigan, all sold out within hours. You know,
Wow.
I mean, it was just a test to see, hey, will this track? Are we going to get anywhere with this brand, and can we, you know, really leverage it? When we dropped them, it was just, you know, a free for all. It was like, you know, the last piece of food on the shelf for, you know, a toilet paper fiasco that we just went through in the world.
So the product
in COVID,
itself,
right?
like
crazy.
based on quality of product, it actually backs up the name recognition and brand recognition as well.
100%. You can't stand a brand on bad product. I mean, we grew, curated, and made sure that this was premium, top shelf stuff that stands up to the High Times name. So it was 30% plus THC.
Yeah.
It was premium packaged. It was well positioned, and it was just exactly what everybody wanted, and it lived up to all the expectations of what a High Times product should end up to be. And past the point of purchase is what I call it. When people get it home, it lived up to the name as well. So really, really happy with how that played out, and we're looking forward to rolling it out to a broader audience now in Michigan, Illinois, and Florida, where we have the rights to it.
It's great to see the overall advancement of the industry and the acceptance and perception that it continues to grow. I hear that from a lot of companies. I want to talk about specific products. The Platinum Vapes is the leading selling vaping brand in Michigan, counts for 28% market share in the category, according to your last corporate update. The product line is also expanding distribution into California through its partnership with STEM Holdings. So if we look ahead, do you foresee Platinum Vapes becoming a true national brand in the future, whether it be through your dispensaries nationally or through your outside vendor
Absolutely.
partnerships? Yeah.
100%. Look, Platinum Vape started in California. It really was a mom and pop, if you will. Grew regionally. They identified Michigan as an opportunity market. They went in there with a medical brand and became a very dominant player in there. We, as a dominant player in Michigan, saw them as a very appetizing target, if you will. We sat down, talked to them, and effectively purchased them in I guess it was October, I believe.
Yeah.
When that deal closed. And so, that has since effectively doubled in size since we've taken it over. So, I mean, it's been doing all the right things. We've been growing in all the right markets. We're going into Arizona with it. But when you look at Michigan as a state by itself, it is a dominant player in there by a landslide. And so we're very happy with the performance of it, and we're looking to extend that performance into the other states that we're in right now.
Last thing I wanted to talk to you about, let's face it, a lot of investors are getting back into this industry, given what's happened in Canada and obviously the opportunity that, the U.S. presents. What are your expectations for the Safe Banking Act making it through to the Senate and on to Joe Biden's desk for approval? And if passed, we like to touch on, it blows my mind away when I still look at a lot of the mainstream media platforms still outlining the opportunities of some of these big Canadian players. And I'm like, why? No disrespect, but I'm like, Curaleaf, Trueleaf, those are big MSOs, but there is tremendous opportunity for these mid-tier companies like yourself. So if this does pass, what should investors know about the true opportunity that your company presents from an investment standpoint?
Well, I think we're in all the key states we need to be in. I mean, Michigan, we're a stealth player. We've got a dominant position there. We've got a very robust infrastructure with close to 200 points of distribution within that. So it's not just the 8 stores. It is distribution from our High Times, from our Platinum Vapes that are incredible big sellers there. We plan to take that model into other very successful states with an insatiable market such as Illinois, which we're just closing a license there, and in Florida as well, where that was the trifecta of what we went out to actually accomplish with RWB, and we've effectively done that. Florida is closing next week, and we expect to close that next week, and Illinois as well. So when you look at those 2 limited license markets, to be able to go in and take it from seed all the way to sale and have the portfolio of products and the brands that we have, it's second to none. We will be immediately competing with the top players there and able to actually satiate the market with the acumen that we have with the people that we know how to grow, we know how to produce, we know how to distribute, and all those pieces. And so you look at what we've got there as embryonic, if you will, but it's doing way more revenue than what we had originally reported. And it's just, it was just a fact of how, we were able to report it and how the deal was structured so we're able to, once we're able to report those earnings, man, I just can't wait to get those other states on, report what's going on in Michigan, spark up Illinois, spark up Florida, spark up Arizona, and grow California. We're definitely going to meet our mandate of being a top player in this whole space. And, when you look at our valuation, incredibly undervalued with respect to what we have right now as infrastructure in the markets that we're in.
I think a lot of companies within this space, this industry in the US are undervalued right now. But, you know, I think like anything with cannabis investors, the number one challenge is time. You just got to be patient, but things are
Yeah.
progressing well from what I hear. So
But this
it
is
is,
exactly the point, right? When like what was Jack Daniels worth 5 years in?
yeah,
Do you have any idea?
I
Who
don't.
knows? But you know what? They're worth $50 billion now, I
Yeah.
think. So when you look at the opportunity of where this thing grows, and to your point, time, this is going to play out the way it needs to play out. This is the end of prohibition, and it's only upwards from here because a lot of these states haven't gone wreck, and a lot of these states really haven't turned on in any kind of critical mass way.
Well, the interesting thing that I have found with this company, like, look, first and foremost, it's all based on business fundamentals. But one thing that always grabs, not from what I've heard from the investment community, is just branding. And it is a reputable name that people often talk about and remember. And, you know, I see that there's obviously a tremendous opportunity moving forward for this entire industry, more specifically your company. Listen, appreciate you sitting down with us. I know it's a busy time. Looks like you're enjoying the sun. I don't know where you're at, but
San Diego, beautiful place,
God's
most beautiful place on earth.
God's
Oh yeah,
country, God's country, isn't
God's
it?
country. You're right. Absolutely.
Great spot to say the least. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time. Let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Sean. Really
right.
appreciate your time. Take
Yeah,
care.
you as well. Thanks, Brad.